Oh my gosh, it has been quite a ride today. And it's my pleasure to bring you to the stage, Miss Ty Givens. We've had her on in the past, and honestly, we had a whole segment on kind of customer service live chat earlier in the day. And I think this ties those really nicely together because we're going to talk about business process optimization, which of course is oversees customer service, or at least it should for your business. I think some people forget, being honest, but it's really, can be applied to a lot of different areas of business. I try to keep my business very well organized, running a team of 7 or 8, and it's quite the pain. And I wish I had somebody like Ty on my side to help to keep our company organized. But most specifically for you, she's going to go over from both a customer service and customer experience standpoint how to keep your business in line. Ty, welcome.
Hey, how
Good
are
to see you
you?
again. Doing great. All right. So I already gave all the blurbs. I'm just going to let you take it away.
All right, cool. All right, so hi everybody. Ty Givens here, and I founded a company called The Workforce Pro, and we work with businesses that are looking to set up their customer experience for scale. So I think that should be everyone, but I wanted to talk to you guys a little bit about a few things that I'm seeing in the beauty space. We've been lucky enough to work with quite a few beauty brands, and what's cool about that is that the more and more are coming along. So I just wanted to share a few things that I've been seeing with all of you. And I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. I'm going to walk through this pretty quickly, so don't you worry, it won't be too long. But my goal is that you get some really good content out of this. So it's going to look like I'm not looking at you because I'm looking at another screen, but I am totally talking to you. All right. So the beauty of customer experience, let's just be honest, literally no one will ever say that customer experience, customer service, none of the above is sexy. Nobody thinks that. And we try to make it as interesting as we can, and we want to make it as fun as we can. So in working with a few brands, there's a few things that we're seeing as far as trends are concerned. And I'm talking about COVID related times, because we're now in this space where you're actually in the home with the customer now. They're no longer going into stores like they used to. You don't have that experience of swatching, of touching, of feeling. So you're really just reliant on sight and sound. And so one of the things that we're seeing that's working really well is reflection. Customers seeing themselves in your brand. And so when that happens, it's kind of like almost like the models being replaced, right? So I won't name any names, but a brand that we worked with, their products are infused with skincare products. And so I happen to have issues with my skin, but one of the things that was lovely was to see one of the models that they used. She actually had blemishes, and she had scarring, and she still applied the product, and it looked really good and clean and natural. And so it was nice for me to see myself in that. And then we also have to talk about the hot topic, which is related to racial equality. And so really the people who are using your products, the people who are selling your products, they really need to look like your customer, right? Your customers and your employees should look the same. And so we've been working a lot on getting inclusion and creating that diversity with our clients. The next thing is that you have the savvy and smart customer. What are we all doing all day long other than sitting on our phones and looking up information? And if you have a question, you're Googling it, and you're no longer relying on someone else to tell you something. And so now your customers are becoming really smart. And if you're not specifically in CX or in customer experience, you might actually say, well, I'm the founder, or I'm the head of, and I know all about, my product, my service. But in reality, your frontline should be much smarter and much more savvy than you. And you get there through providing them with knowledge resources and training resources, and really educating them on not just surface level your product, but actually going really deep. The next thing is that trust is required. And we all know that one, that's not really such a big thing. But We're also in a space now where if someone is buying a specific product from you, they're more likely to buy more products from you because they trust you with that one. We're not seeing a lot of people go across the board and try a bunch of new and different things when it comes to skincare or when it comes to beauty. So when you have that customer, it's a really good time to really hold on to them, share more information with them, and share more products with them, and hopefully get some samples out there that will lead to sales. So the slides that I'm giving you, this is really about the back end things, because as we work, we lay a foundation for customer experience, which means we have to first understand the customer, what's driving the customer, your customer demographics, what it is that they need and want. And then everything from there gets built up. Your processes are built on top of your customer expectation, not the other way around. So you don't set up your process and say, customers fit into this. You say, here's what our customer wants and needs, and we're going to build that around it. Now, depending on the size of your org, you know, your finance and your supply chain person might be the same guy or gal, and that's fine. But as you start to scale, there are going to be pieces of information that's going to need to get shared with different people, excuse me, within your company. And here are a few things that you want to share or collect in order to move from being reactive to proactive. Now, you guys may know that when you're in that space of hyper growth, or you're starting out and you're starting to get some popularity, you find that you're in reactive mode. You're firefighting 99% of the time. Things are blowing up and you're like, oh my gosh, people keep asking about this or people keep asking about that. And it's really easy to get frustrated with those types of engagements, and it's easy to burn out your employees with those types of engagements, but there are ways to get ahead of that. So I know that you might have been thinking when you started your business that customer service was going to be the easiest part, because it seems to be the most logical, the most common sense type of work you can do. But the reality is you're dealing with people, and so you've got to put some structures in to really make things make sense. So if you're in CX, the one thing, or for your CX team, one thing that you guys want to communicate to, say, the finance team is going to be around returns and exchanges. You're going to want to quantify your returns. You want to quantify the reasons for your returns and or exchanges. This is also going to help you guys to find out if there's any problems possibly with production or with your supply chain. You'll learn that very early, because customers, when they're returning items to you, 9 times out of 10, they're going to tell you what's going on. It was the wrong shade. It was the wrong fit. It was the wrong color. You can find all that. You can collect all that information through your ticketing system. I know you guys talked about live chat and ticketing and phones, and those are called your channels, right? So you're going to want to collect information through those channels so that you can start to tell a story, because the numbers are going to tell a story that your emotions never will. You can be as frustrated as you want and go to finance and say, you know, I need more people because we can't handle what's coming in. And that sounds good in theory, and that sounds real in theory, but they're going to say, well, how many more people do you need? What are you currently doing? Is it possible for you to do more? And so you're going to want to have a strong system and process that will give you that information. The other thing you're going to want to get from the finance team is your volume and your sales forecast. That's going to be something that you use to predict for future how many resources you're going to need to actually get your work done. When it comes to product, some information that's really good to share with product. When I ran customer experience for quite a few companies actually before I went out on my own, but I can remember one particular company where I was really close to the head of product, because we had over 4,000 products. And so it was part of my responsibility to make sure that my team knew what was coming in. And in addition to knowing what was coming in, that they also knew what the customers were, or excuse me, that we were able to communicate to product what was happening from the customer standpoint. So again, a lot of these things come with setting up your systems, right? Because it's a bunch of work up front to save you a lot of time long term. So it's worth investing the time, energy, and effort today on getting these things set up for you. But you want to share with product the wait list information so that they know what to order, when to order, and that information should come back to you as well. You need to know what's on the wait list or the wish, or excuse me, you need to find out from them what's going to be on hold before it goes out of stock, so that you can get ahead of that. We're also seeing a lot of companies move from that wait list experience where people can sign up for a wait list to just actually pushing the item out of stock for that transparency reason. Because with the supply chain issues that we're all seeing, the delays in shipping and everything that's going on, given the current climate, you don't want your customer to wait for something that may never come. Sure, it's fun to, pre-order and collect the money up front, but it's going to be a terrible experience in the end. If you have to refund all that, it's not going to be good for you. It's not going to be good for them. The other thing you want to share with your product team is about quality. I'm sure that your brand is going to focus very heavily on making sure that, as often as possible, the products that go out meet your standard, but there are going to be times when something could be wrong. So you'll need processes in place. Being in skincare and in beauty, you have to have policies and procedures and ways that you're going to handle certain things, because you have a product that people are putting on their bodies. And so if someone breaks out, or if they have an allergic reaction or any of the sort, you're going to want to have some protocols around that. And you're also going to want to report that back to quality, because they're the ones who are likely responsible for sourcing and so forth and so on. So you have to have open communication there. The next thing is about packaging. I've worked for quite a few clean brands, and one of the things that we see is vocal customers around the amount of paper that goes into your product, whether or not the boxes are recycled. What do you do with returned packaging? All of that kind of information, you guys are going to want to have a message around that. Excuse me. When it comes to marketing, I really think that, so this is a fun one. As far as my vision on where customer experience is, I think it does sit in the marketing world. There's probably somebody out there nodding and somebody out there saying, heck no. But I think it sits in the marketing world, because marketing is going to focus on acquiring customers. Customer experience is going to focus on keeping the customer. When we talk about campaigns, these are your marketing messages that are going to go out. Too often I've seen marketing work in a silo. They're developing these campaigns, they're sending them out, and then they go, oh yeah, customer experience, we just did a 20% coupon. And the 20% coupon only works for customers who've purchased product A. And then you have people who are contacting customer experience who say, hey, I saw this coupon that came through, but it's not working. And then there was some sort of glitch because it wasn't tested. So said that to say, test your campaigns and always have a go-to person within CX that you work with to help you make sure that those coupon codes and the things that you think are working a certain way are actually working the way that it's intended, because CX talks to the customer every day, so they get that direct feedback. Promotions should be proactive. It shouldn't be reactive. It shouldn't be, we've already done it. It should be, we're about to do this. And there should also be communication on whether or not CX can handle volume. So many times in my world, I've experienced where the business will make a decision to move forward with something that CX can't support. And when everything hits the fan, they come back and go, well, why didn't you guys tell us? And it's like, we did. We tried to. So make sure that that communication is open, that you're saying, hey, if we do this and this triggers, 10,000 more tickets, it's going to take us X number of resources to handle it. And if you have a good training process, which we advocate for and even create for you as far as e-learning is concerned, you should be able to hire people when you need them and get them wrapped up pretty quickly to help with these different things that are going on. Lastly is supply chain on this slide. When we talk about packing, excuse me, what's, like I mentioned, what's happening with the packaging. Let's say that I've had this before, won't say the company, but there was a box cutter inside of a customer's order. So, random odd things getting put into packages, things that they didn't order, someone else's order, things like that. You also need to have an open line of communication between your warehouse or your ops team, your supply chain, and the company. So you need to be tracking, working with them. So one of the things that we used to do at a company I worked at is we used to have daily meetings with the warehouse. It was a daily meeting to verify the order forecast. So we already knew, how many orders were coming in or how many we thought were going to come in. We also found out how many the warehouse was going to be able to pack on any given day. And then we would forecast the backlog, proactively reach out to customers who we thought were going to be impacted so that we could get in front of those messages, because it's so much easier to say, hey, Mr. and Mrs. Customer, your order is going to be delayed by 2 days than for that customer to be waiting for 4 days and not hear anything. And now they're reaching out and they're angry. So we used to get ahead of that with those daily meetings. Another thing you need is a process for undelivered orders. How long are you going to wait before you reship? That's going to be really important. And then missing items or wrong items, an item, an order that's short shipped, like these are things that you need to track. Your warehouse is going to have an error rate that they're going to say, we're going to be below this number consistently. They can get away with saying that a lot, especially if you're not able to track it. So again, set up your ticketing system so that you are able to track this information and use data to tell the numbers. Because remember, we can be as frustrated as we want, but nobody can deny the data. All of the things I talked about, of course, we can help with. So, excuse me, if you do nothing else, these are the things I think you should do. Make sure that the people who are talking to your customer are smarter than you about your product. It's really fun to me working in CX from the standpoint of people being totally afraid to talk to customers. I think it's hilarious. And also the fact that customer service or customer experience is often the group that seems to find out information last, but they are literally the voice of your customer. So make sure that they have the tools, the resources, the information, and you need to make it available to them on demand, so that they can service your customer as you would. Because let's be honest, the last time you went into a store or to a shop, you may not remember the name of the person you spoke to, but you remember the experience that you had with that company, right? The other thing is to develop a policy on intolerance. This one, I've had a couple discussions on the last couple of weeks. As I had mentioned, we're in a very, politically, racially, emotionally charged time just within the world in general. And we're now at a place where we have to decide as a company or as a brand what our tolerance level is. You guys may have already started to get pushback if perhaps you have men who wear makeup who are representing your brand, or if you took a stance on BLM, you might have people who are angry or upset about that. Or you may have customers who've called in and they're talking to an agent about one thing, and then suddenly the conversation turns political. You don't have to, as a company say, who you support, but what you would want to do is create a process or a policy that's going to be written for the person who's most sensitive on your team. If you're leading CX, you know that sometimes you work with people who not only are new to this role, it's usually their first professional job, but they're also new to being in the adult world. And they haven't learned their boundaries yet. So you got to kind of help them set those. So make sure you have a tolerance policy or an intolerance policy, whichever makes sense to you, what's going to be acceptable to say, not say, when to escalate, things like that. Yes, you have to think down to that level because that's the world that we're in. And then the last thing I'll say to you about this is to invest in proactive communication, the tools, the resources, new channels for customer support. If your customers like to message you on social, make it easy for them to message you on social. If you find that it's important to have content written about how to use your product, the ingredients, do that. Share that information with your customer experience team. Give them a chance to even write some content or provide some information to you, because they hear directly from the customer, and giving them that level of inclusion is going to be something that's going to make them want to work with you much longer than the usual lifespan of CX. And you guys are probably already living through that. Anything around people, process, and tech that makes your job easier, smoother, simpler, it's all worthwhile. It's worth investing in. And look at your cost as an investment. It's not a price, it's an investment, because you're always going to get a return if you choose the right partner or process. So, excuse me, we offer a specific service for beauty brands. I mentioned that we work with so many. You can find our website. It's scrolling at the bottom there, which is very cool. Workforcepro.com/, if you add beauty-full just the way you see it on the screen. It'll take you to a screen that looks very similar to this. We are working with different brands to help you guys establish both a choose your ticketing system if you don't already have one in place, implementing it, or even enhancing what you have in place, and then training your agents on using it, because that's the key that's often missing. There's no solution that you're going to buy that's going to start working for you right away. You have to tell the system what to do, right? So it might be easy to configure, but you have to tell the system what you want it to do. And we find that that's where most clients have the hardest time, and we help with that all the time. The other thing that we can do is help you with your workflows and your standard operating procedures. We know what's to come. I've been in this space for 20 years. My career turned 20 December 2020, which is weird to me. But I started working in contact centers when I was just 18 years old, and I've seen it grow and evolve. So as far as like getting workflows set up, our workflows have actually saved our clients, or actually helped them to produce 50% more output with the same staff. So as I mentioned, it's always an investment. It's never a cost. It's about what are you going to get for it. So if we can help you to not have to hire so many people, then we feel like our work is done. The other thing that we do is we work really closely on helping you to develop your new hire training. And also the org structure, that's really key and critical, especially in beauty. There are going to be some types of context that you have that's going to be better to go with a partner, or to just educate your partner on how to do these things. A lot of outsourcers will do your training for you, so you guys may not need that, but I'm a big proponent of having an ownership for your brand when it comes to things like this. So you should probably have a stronger voice in that and manage your outsourcer accordingly. And then the last thing that we'll help you with, just in this package, there's more, but this is like a starter to get you guys going, or to at least see where you are, is the people needs. This one's always fun because you're probably at that crossroads of, do I hire another person? Should I be looking for a manager? Should I be looking for a tool? And the answer to all of that is maybe. There's a little bit more understanding that has to happen, but we do an assessment with you first, so that we can see where you are. And then we possibly will go on to an optimization, where we will basically work with you to look into what you're doing right now and say, these are all the things that you need to do to get to where you want to be. And then you decide if you want to get there and how long you want to take. And then we go from there. So the one thing I wanted to tell you guys about is that I'm doing monthly sessions now where I'm like doing, I call it knowledge transfer. This link that you see down here, the cxactually.com/register. CX Actually is actually a space that's created for CX leaders. It's a safe space to be upfront and honest about the things that are going on with you in your world. And so what we are doing with this is we've taken it a step further. We're doing a knowledge transfer. Part of the service that we offer is helping find a new leader. And sometimes when we're out looking for a new leader, we find that, you know what, this person might have been called a manager in the past, but they really are functioning more as a lead. Or maybe they were called a director, but they're really functioning more like a manager. So I'm just transferring knowledge of things that I've done and built over the course of my career, totally free. And so every month, if you go visit this link here, you just hop on our email list. You can join by going to cxactually.com or even Workforce Pro. I manage all of it. And once you are a part of the email list, you'll be notified when the new events happen. So the next one's coming up February 10th at 5 p.m. I do it in the evening because we all work so hard. And I know that when I was running CX, the last thing I had was time to do anything during the day. So we do it in the evening. It's your time. It's totally free. Join us if you wish. It's the next one, as I mentioned, is February 10th. And I'm going to show you guys how to create the budget. And
more links. Here we go. All right.
No. Just send these out. These is just how to find us. This is fine. If you go to workforcepro.com, you got everything that you need.
Yeah, that was amazing. You said I manage all of it, and I was thinking she manages all of it. And I'm like, well, this is because you optimize your own business. You're drinking your own champagne here and making it one. You're making it work managing a lot of things going on. But definitely for anybody that's serious about CX, I think we can see two things very clearly. The first one is if you are a CX leader and you need to lead your team and be on the forefront of what's going on, you need to be in the CX actually group and on those calls so that you're continuing to step up your game. And simultaneously, if you feel like your team is struggling and you just can't get a hold of it, and maybe you don't have the right people in place yet, then that's when you want to hire Ty to work with her in the Workforce Pro in order to get your system squared away. So I love it. Yeah. What else is there to say? I want to like sneak into these CX calls. I feel like they're for really anybody in marketing and leadership and in customer, any sort of customer facing role can benefit from having this knowledge. And I think it can be applied to you mentioned earlier about like, the lack of communication between marketing and customer service, which I've seen firsthand. And it's like, maybe I would change how I ran my marketing campaigns if I understood how the problems tend to come in from customer service. So there's like a different layer of proactivity that's on the employment level, like in the departmental level, that I think is especially in beauty, because beauty brands often are siloed departments. I would say especially older meaning like 10 years old or older, and some of the larger ones working cross department does become a big challenge. So I think this presents that sort of like mind-blowing opportunity to reduce ticket inflow and increase maybe ROI from marketing. Even the simplest thing. I had somebody reach out to me yesterday, and yes, Ty, I know I'm rambling. I ramble.
No, you're fine. This is good stuff. Go.
somebody goes, look, we give people this 10% off coupon code when they come to our site. Like, almost every site does it, 10% off your first purchase. But after they get that, they have to go to their email and click a link and then go to the checkout and then make sure the code is applied. And a lot of times we're just losing people. So they're going to hit us up on customer service and say they can't figure out the code, find it. It's lost in their spam folder. It's not getting applied properly. So they just ask one simple question. Is there a tool that just applies the code as soon as they give us their email address, and then it works? And they wanted to even show the discounted prices on each product because they wanted it to be clear that this is the new price because you're getting 10% off. And I was like, yeah, that would make a lot of sense. And I bet that is, the customer service team complaining to the marketing team right there in a nutshell, right?
Yeah. And sometimes the complaints come by way of frustration, and then no one listens because I would say you do really well at your job if people think that's all you do. So when they just answer the phones, they just answer emails, they're just on live chat. That's all they do. So if you think that's all that they do, they must be doing really well. But the other side of it is that there's so much information that comes out of it. And a lot of leaders, because of title inflation, which is a real thing, they haven't been properly developed along the way, and they don't know how to communicate their issues. So it's a silo. So I'm like, you know what? 2021 is the last year that we're breaking it. I'm going to teach people how to do this. I'm passing the torch to somebody, and whoever wants
You're tired of talking about this problem. It's clearly a problem, right? Yeah.
Let's just check the emotion at the door. What's the percentage? What's it impacting? And if you are calculating your cost per contact, and you can say every time someone calls in with this issue, think of it as us, paying $10, $15, $20. The business is going to listen differently. Annualize that, turn that into a head count. Tell them we're going to save you a head count if we can fix this problem. You're going to get resources behind it.
Yeah, I like it. And that's not something that everybody has, not a lot of people have been given the ammo to think about that.
Yeah.
And I think personally, I always struggled with getting executive buy-in, and everyone speaks a different language sometimes. So, the finance is just caring about the numbers. The CEO's focused on the new partner relationship. The COO wants headcount, wants it to be about the headcount. And it's like, how do I get them all to buy in and see that it's just all good? It's good for all those things.
Yes. Well, I just did January session. You guys just missed that, but it is recorded. Send me a message. I'll send the link out. On getting buy-in from executives. So it's not about managing a project once it's approved. It's about getting a project approved. So if you've heard a business or a company present today and you're like, I really would like to work with them, but I don't know how to get my boss or the higher ups to say yes, then I want you to check out the training that I did, because it's going to show you how to do a one pager that gets you allies and gets you buy-in. And now you're getting ready to head that, and you've just elevated your own personal brand.
I love it. And it's funny because that's almost like doing customer service for the customer. The goal is to get them to not be pissed off and to, buy from us again and to be very happy with that. And you're like, well, now you have to send that email, but it's to the boss. It's to the boss's boss.
That's it. It's all its own form of sales, right? So, whether you have the internal customer, the external customer, and it's about education. And a hint when you're managing up is to be as concise as possible and focused on data.
That's my problem. Now I get it. Well, I can do data, but I can't be concise because I ran, which we already said.
One page where it tells you everything. And
I gave them the book.
It gets you they'll go, oh, this makes sense because you've done ROI, you've done the interview, you've done everything. So
yeah. Well, awesome, Ty. Thank you so much for joining us. Thanks for closing out day one. I love the tips, especially the unique problems to the beauty industry as well.
Yeah, they're there. Thank you so much for having me. Thank you, everybody. I hope to hear from you guys soon. And good luck.
Bye. All right. That is the end of day one. Give myself the right banner here. And I really had a blast. I'd love to get your thoughts and feedback on our new technology that allows us to bring people in and make the screen sharing a little bit more, I don't know, dynamic. Is that the right word for it? I'd love more chats and comments from you guys tomorrow. So I'll see you back here tomorrow at 9 a.m. Pacific time. We're going to have a little bit of a shorter day, only 5 sessions, but we'll kick it off with my talk, which will be on really choosing the right tech tool stack, which we've already seen, how I already talked to you about how shoppable quizzes leads into customer service inquiries, that leads into accelerating live chat and personalized smart banners. And you can see how those things all work together. And teams like the HelpFlow team and the Workforce Pro can bring your business together in ways that don't bog you down or need to be so scary, if that makes sense. Because I think that's why a lot of people still aren't doing things like live chat, even though John from HelpFlow proved massive ROI for in the case of doing it right. And of course, we also talked about lifetime value with Juliana, and we talked about cause marketing with Savannah. We talked about shipping insurance and getting that off of your plate. All of these things, I think, help scale the business in a really healthy way that that actually takes spinning plates off of your head, right? And that's what I always call it. There's 2 things that I think merchants are always doing. They're putting out fires and they're spinning plates, right? Putting out fires is because there's some random customer service inquiry where somebody's threatening you or really pissed off at the brand or insulting your team member, or you've got an employee walking out or not showing up, or something, or your warehouse is underwater, literally, or like all sorts of things that are happening. So those are the fires you got to put out. And then the spinning plates are all of these jobs that you give yourself that you don't have time for because you're, at least in the beginning, it's one person. Maybe you've got 3, 5, 10 people on your team, but it always feels like there's more that needs to be done. And it's always limited by the resources that you have, right? If I was a $10 million brand, I'd have all the money to hire the people. I wouldn't have to do so much. But if I was a $10 million brand, I'd need more people in order to just fulfill on my existing demand. And so I personally am very nerdy about the tools and the technology and how those scale out your business. And we'll get into that more tomorrow as our opening keynote. I look forward to seeing you there. Thank you so much for joining me for the Future of E-commerce for Beauty and Skincare Day 1. I'll see you guys very soon, tomorrow, 9 a.m.